Hey there, tech fans. Rick here again with a review of a brand new accessory for your Osmo Pocket, the DJI extension rod. This product is designed to allow you to clamp your Osmo Pocket in the top and then extend that rod up to 500 millimeters, which is about 19.5 inches, to get that perfect selfie shot where you've got a wider background behind you. Or maybe you've got to record over a crowd. You want to record a concert. This allows you to get it up in the air 19 inches to get that perfect shot. Other times you may want to record low where you're getting one of those up shots like in flashlight mode. And again, without bending over, you can actually get this thing down close to the ground and get that perfect up shot with full stabilized video. Now, unlike every other selfie stick on the market, this is like a selfie stick on steroids because they built in a ton of technology which transfers all the control from the Osmo Pocket down to the handle. You've got a joystick and a bunch of buttons down there, so you can pretty much control what's going on at the top of that selfie stick right from the handle. Now, there's a lot of cool features built into it, and I'm going to spend a lot of time showing you those features. We'll take a trip outside and I'll show you how to use the product, but I thought I'd start with an unboxing, then I'll do some close-ups of the product to show you all the connectors and buttons and what they do. They've got a lot of cool stuff built into it, and then at the end I'll come back and give you some conclusions about the product. Now, I've had it about a week and a half, and I've really been putting it through its paces. I record with the Osmo Pocket a lot. I've had this with me every time I went out, so I've used it a ton outside, and I'll give you some tips and tricks on how to use it and my honest opinion on it overall. I think it's a wonderfully designed product, probably not for everybody, and I'll get into that sort of to the end, but if you're serious about recording with your Osmo Pocket, it's definitely an accessory you want to consider. I think the price is pretty reasonable for the amount of technology they've built into it, but again, you'll have to make that decision for yourself. All right, let's talk about what comes in the kit. There's not a lot included with the box. You open up the box, there's some foam inside there to hold the thing so it doesn't bounce around. You get the Osmo Pocket extension stick, and you also get this full instruction manual in a bunch of different languages that explains everything you need to know about this particular product. So I would recommend you read through that manual before you start using it. Not that you can't figure it out on your own, but it just makes it a lot easier eliminating that trial and error of what does this button do? What's that switch do? So I'll give you kind of an overview of what all the buttons do today, but I'd recommend reading through the manual. One other thing I want to mention is that to use this fully, you definitely want to update to the latest version of the DJI Pocket, Osmo Pocket firmware, because there are some features in here that rely on that new firmware to actually work correctly. It's also the same firmware you're going to need for the underwater case, which I'll be reviewing tomorrow. So make sure you update to the latest version of firmware. You get all the cool features that work with this product. All right, so the product itself is really well built from an engineering perspective. It's high impact plastic. It's not metal, but again, they're trying to keep the weight down. You've got, I guess the weight in this thing is right around 199 grams, which is about 7 ounces. So it's not terribly heavy, but what they build in there from a technology perspective really impressed me. At the top, you've got a standard collar that holds the Osmo Pocket. And you'll notice when you open this up that inside there's actually a connector. So when you attach the Osmo Pocket to this particular extension rod, you can't have one of those universal connectors on it. You got to pop that off, slide it in. Those connections down there, and I'll do a close-up of this, actually make the connection down to the handle for all the controls that you're going to use later on. So you'll basically slide your Osmo Pocket in there. Let me show you how to do that. Again, be very careful when you open this thing up that you don't drop it. So you've got to take that universal connector off, and then it basically just slides on over top here. So that replaces the universal connector. Now that'll hold on pretty tight, but then you want to flip the collar down and close it. And the catch on that, the latch I should say, is pretty much the same as what they have on their standard frame that you'd use with it all the time. So that's pretty much all you've got. Now it's ready to go. And again, you can extend this rod up to 55 or 500 millimeters, which is again about 19 inches. So it gives you quite a bit of extension. And you can also extend it further because there's a 1/4 inch thread on the bottom here that you could actually use like another extension rod if you want to, or even a tripod, and I'll show you that in a minute. It has a phone holder right here. Let me get this out of the way. So it's got a nice phone holder that extends really wide. So you got a lot of, the bigger phones will fit in there. I've got one of the larger iPhones. It fits in there no problem. Then below you've got all the controls. Now I'll show you these in a close-up in a second, but you've got a joystick here that'll actually move the head of the Osmo when it's up in the assembly. You've got a record button. You've got a function button. So everything you need to do all the things you'll want to do with the camera when it's up there at height can be done from the handle. I think it's really well balanced. It did a pretty good job on it. Now, another thing that was interesting to me is that it actually has a battery inside of it. It's got a 65 milliampere hour battery, which is really small. And I know a lot of people out there that were looking at this said, well, gee, that kind of stinks that I've got a battery in there. And there's a lot of confusion about, does it charge off the Osmo Pocket? Because if you read the details on the website, it says that it actually charges off the Osmo Pocket, and it doesn't really do that. What happens is, when you charge this, there's no way to charge it externally. You've got the Osmo Pocket connected to it like I'm showing you here. You'll basically connect up a standard USB-C connection on the bottom to charge your Osmo Pocket. Now you can't see it, but I'll show you a close-up. I actually checked this in the dark. I'm charging the Osmo Pocket right now, but if you look closely, you'll see a light blinking on the bottom here, which will also show you that I'm charging this extension rod at the same time. So what happens is you charge them both together. When you're out in the field, this is plenty of battery in it to run it for the length of time you can actually record. So I think you get about 150 minutes of recording time on a full charge here. That 65 milliampere hours is plenty to keep this thing going. But if this isn't fully charged, for whatever reason, maybe you didn't connect it up the last time you used it, it will draw some power off the Osmo Pocket, but technically it's going to use all the power that's in the handle first, and then it's going to trickle off the Osmo Pocket if it needs to. So it's not like it's going to have a dramatic impact on your recording time out there. It's just going to use a little bit of power if it needs it. But my recommendation is if you're going to use this thing, whenever you're charging your Osmo Pocket, snap it in here, charge the Osmo Pocket, it'll make sure both of these are charged. That also brings to mind a concern that if you're not going to use this for a long period of time, I think 5 or 6 months, that battery inside is a LiPo battery, and I've talked about this a lot on the channel. LiPo batteries can't go dead, so you definitely have to visit this every so often and trickle charge it just to make sure you've got a little bit of a charge in the battery inside the handle, because if you let it sit for a year and you don't use it, when you come back to try and charge it, probably that LiPo battery is already gone and there's no way to wake that back up. So just be aware of that. Then I'll talk a little bit when I get outside about the connections, because the other thing that's interesting is there is no physical connection between your camera, or I should say your phone, which is again the viewfinder for this, and the Osmo Pocket. Now you can do a couple of different things here. You can use the Wi-Fi adapter, so you could pop that on the bottom if you want to, and connect over Wi-Fi, just like you would normally, which kind of seems goofy because it's only that far away, but it does work really well and it'll show you the viewfinder. The other option is you can use a cable. Now we have a cable kit we sell on the channel that actually will take any standard cable and turn it into a USB-C connection for the bottom of the Osmo Pocket. Then the other end will plug into your phone. That's another way to go. It's a little less expensive than using the Wi-Fi connection. But what I'm trying to say is you need to make a connection between the bottom of the Osmo Pocket somehow and the actual viewfinder or phone that you're using for the viewfinder. So it doesn't accommodate for that. But what I do like about it so much is that inside this rod, they've actually extended all the functions that you would get on the handle or on the front of the Osmo Pocket all the way through the rod, through that connector into the Osmo Pocket. So they've given you, again, like the perfect selfie stick that allows you to extend the length of this to get the shot you need, but still have full control on the handle. So it really is kind of a nice hybrid product. And honestly, we went to the kickoff for this product. We were lucky enough to be at the launch for it, and they had all these accessories on a table over there. This is the one that caught my attention and the one I've been waiting for. I'm sure a lot of you have as well for the last couple of months, because I really expected this thing to hit the street pretty much the day that the product was released. And for whatever reason, it took a little bit of time to get out there. But anyway, it's out today, so I'm really happy about that. All right, so the last thing I'll show you is that, again, with this 1/4 inch on the bottom, and I've used it quite a bit, is you can extend this thing to be the perfect vlogging camera. So you can actually put it on here and extend the rod as high as you need to, straighten this out, and then you can vlog. And you've got a beautiful viewfinder there with your phone snapped in where you can vlog, and it's going to do facial tracking. So it's a great way to go. The other thing I like is you can easily, and I'll show you this when I'm outside, you can use another one of these extension sticks to extend it even further. So if you're outside and you've got sort of a tripod like this set up, you can put this on the tripod and then extend it even further, which makes it almost the perfect height for recording. So I'll show you when I get outside, but what I'll end up doing a lot of times when I'm traveling is I'll bring the Osmo Pocket with me, I'll bring this extension rod, and I'll bring the tripod, and then with this new kit, I can actually, well, it's hard to show because I've got a limited space here, but you can see that I can extend this very long, and I can also extend this very long. So between the two of them, I can actually sit it on the ground and get tremendously good recording capabilities, you know, high enough where I've got it almost like a freestanding camera in a really, really small package. So just something else to consider. And again, these are additional accessories that don't come with the product, and we've got them available on our website. You can find them anywhere, I'm sure, but you know, the ones we sell, again, are heavy duty and they're tested by us, and they're ones that I use on a regular basis. So hang on, and now what I'll do is a close-up of the product, explain what the buttons do and some of the connections. Then I'll take you outside and I'll show you, because I got a little bit more elbow room, exactly how this works and what the buttons do relative to the functions on the camera. So stay tuned and we'll take a closer look at the product. The unit's constructed out of ABS high-impact plastic, which gives it its lightweight and really good durability. I imagine they could have made it out of metal, but it would have really increased the weight of this thing, and when you're carrying something like this around, you want it to be as light as possible, so I think they made a good choice with the material they used to construct it. The outside, both the sides and the back, has this rubberized material on the outside, which gives you a really good grip. On the front, you've got the phone holder here with the DJI logo on it. Now I want to talk about that a second, because I think the engineering teams really spent a lot of time designing this. It's a very clever way to put it on there. They've got it so it actually cradles the extension rod, which eliminates a lot of the bulk, so it's not sticking way out. It makes it very streamlined that way. And also, they've covered up the buttons with this, so when you have it folded closed, it's acting sort of as a protection shield for the buttons underneath, because when you throw this in your bag, you don't want something banging up against those buttons and turning on the Osmo Pocket or turning on the handle. You want to have all that stuff protected. So they must have spent a lot of time coming up with that, really unique design there. All right, so let me open this up. Now you'll see with the phone holder, you've got a lot of extension here. Again, this is spring loaded, so it'll fit all the larger modern phones, no problems at all. I don't think you can fit a tablet in it. I'm sure there'll be third-party extensions that'll clamp on here somehow to allow you to put a tablet on it. But honestly, a big tablet on the front of this thing would make it kind of unwieldy. But I don't know, if you want to look into that, maybe there's an accessory coming. If we see some, we'll review them. On the front of the unit, you've got a series of buttons on the bottom and a joystick up top. This is the joystick that controls the head movements on the Osmo Pocket, so as you move this, the head will move up top. And then the 4 buttons below it, you've got a function button here. If you hold that, it'll turn on the Osmo Pocket. You can also step through the functions using that button. Here's a record button. If you're in photo mode, it'll take a picture when you tap it, or start recording video if you're in video mode. This button over here, if you tap it once, it'll actually flip the camera around into selfie mode. You used to have to tap this one 3 times to do that, but you just tap it once, it'll go right into selfie mode, which is really convenient. Then there's a C1 button on this side. What that'll do is step you through the 3 different options you have for either tilt lock, FPV, or follow mode, and it's nice that you've got that right at your fingertips. On the right-hand side, you've got a C2 button. This is a button that'll actually walk through those menu items as well while you're recording, but you have to hold it. So if you want to temporarily go into tilt lock or one of the other modes, you can hold this and it'll actually flip into that mode as long as you hold it, and you let go, it'll go back to whatever you've selected initially. All right, so on the top of the unit is where all the magic happens. You've got a pivotable mount here that clamps the Osmo Pocket in nice and tight. You can extend it by gently pulling up or pushing it down there. The latch on the one side here is pretty straightforward. You lift up here and then pull it open. So if I lift up like this and it clears, it opens up like that. On the bottom is where the connections are made to the Osmo Pocket. And again, I'll show you how to connect that up in a second. But basically, you're going to slide the Osmo Pocket in this way. So to attach the Osmo Pocket, you've got to remove whatever universal connector you've got on there, and then just gently line up the slots with the Osmo Pocket and slide it on just like that. And again, it holds in there really nicely. It's not going to drop out. But to finish up, you want to actually close this and then clamp it tight, and then you're good to go. And that's pretty much it. So the unit itself on the bottom also has a 1/4-inch threaded piece down here where you can actually attach a tripod to it or a few other things. There's a nice little loop right here on the front where you can put a lanyard on it if you want. I guess if you're carrying it around a lot, you want to have a lanyard on there around your wrist. That'll be good as well. Now, 2 other hidden features that I don't know if a lot of people noticed out of the gate. On the one side here, you have a cold shoe mount as well, which makes it really nice to mount a microphone on here or a Lume Cube or something like that where you're going to light up a scene. So they give you that little shoe on the side. Another really cool feature, which again is something I didn't see initially, is that inside the phone holder, if you've taken off that universal connector, you're going to stick that in your pocket and you're going to lose it. They've actually built in this secret little slot down here that I don't think they mentioned in the manual that allows you to drop that universal connector in there and then slide it up like this, just gently, and it's hidden in there. So it actually holds on to that when you're using this accessory, and even when you close it up, there's no way for that to fall out. So it's a great little place to sort of hang on to that accessory. And this is what I like so much about DJI in general, is that their engineering teams just don't stop at the basics. They really think this stuff through, and if there's a way to build in some little cool storage like that, or maybe a cold shoe on the side over here, they're really going that extra mile to build that stuff in there. And that's something I really appreciate about them. So that's pretty much it for the closer look. Now, if you stay tuned, what I'll do is head outside and we'll show you how this thing works and show you some of the tripod setups and some of the controls as well. I'm out in a beautiful field near my home, and I have the Osmo Pocket extension rod with me. I wanted to show you how easy it is to set this product up and how I use it when I'm filming in environments like this, because I do spend a lot of time outdoors in the woods or the fields or near the lake, and having the extension rod with me gives me a lot of advantage in trying to get that overhead shot of something beautiful, or if I'm shooting down low to try to get some up shots, or even if I have to extend it into a tree or over a bush to get that perfect shot. It's great to have it with me because it's a wonderful tool. All right, so setting it up is really easy. You'll want to pull the rod up a little bit to give you some working room to mount your Osmo Pocket. I have my Osmo Pocket here. Now, I will caution you that you definitely want to keep it in a case until you're ready to shoot with it. Leaving it mounted in the extension rod is a bad idea because it's going to get banged around in the back of the car and the gimbal's unprotected, as well as the glass. And also, Be careful when you take it out of the case. I did a clip on the channel a couple of weeks back where I actually dropped my Osmo Pocket, and I explained how I did it. I had the original case and I rolled it out into my hand like I've done it 1,000 times, and it kept rolling and fell on concrete. Now, I've dropped it on grass like this before and I've been okay, but when this came down on the concrete, it cracked the lens, it could have damaged the gimbal. So I used this new custom holder for it because rolling it out of the case is kind of scary to me. Now maybe you're good and you take it by 2 fingers and pull it out of the case and you're going to be okay. That protects it really well. But I like this one because it's a one-handed operation. I can hang on to the Osmo Pocket and just flick my thumb and the case opens up and the Osmo's out of it. So whichever one you use is fine. Just be careful when you pull it out of the case. All right, to mount it's pretty straightforward. You have to undo the latch here. So pop the latch open. Once you pop the latch open, this band pulls back. And then you'll line up the universal port in the front of the Osmo Pocket with the universal connector. Now normally you have a connection on here and you can hide that inside the phone holder. But let me show you how this slides on. So you just line these two up and you'll hear it click when it goes all the way in. So once it's fully seated, close the latch and then you're set. That Osmo Pocket's ready to go. Now you can turn it on at this point and use it. There's no problem, but if you want to use the viewfinder, you've got to mount your phone. So I'll show you to do that next. That's the phone mount right there. You just gently pull that up. And I'm using an iPhone here, and what I like to do is put the iPhone in the top 2 forks like that, just let it sit there, and then push down gently, and that expands the fork. Now you could sort of hold the phone and expand the fork at the same time, but it gets clumsy. That's the easiest way I've found to actually mount it. So the iPhone's in there, the Osmo Pocket is mounted. Now we have to make the connection, because there is no physical connection between this and your monitor device. So you could use the Wi-Fi adapter, and I use this most times when I'm filming. Just pops on the bottom, you open up your settings, you go to Wi-Fi, you connect up to the Osmo Pocket, and boom, you're ready to go with the application. The challenge with filming in a rough terrain like this with the Wi-Fi adapter is if this thing pops off in this tall grass, I'm going to spend 2 weeks trying to find it, so I don't want to take any chances. So when I'm outside like this, I'll use a wired connection. Now I have a connection kit here that we have available on the website. It's pretty clean the way it connects up. You've got one end with an OTG kit connector on it, and what the OTG connector does is it converts that port, the USB-C port, to a standard USB-A, so you can plug that into the back of the Osmo Pocket, or the bottom I should say. Once that's connected, the cable itself is a high durability cable. It's a flex cable, we call it. And on the other end, I've got the iPhone connector. Now we make this in 2 different versions. I'm sure you can find them all over, but we have it in both Android and Apple. Plugs into the phone down here. And once you've made that connection, you're ready to start recording. So to turn on the Osmo Pocket, you'll hold that bottom right button right there, just like you would in the Osmo Pocket to turn it on. So let me do that. Now see the Osmo Pocket going through its power on self-test. It's checking the gimbal to make sure everything's good to go, and it immediately starts recording if you want. Now the fact that it's connected up to my phone, the Mimo application recognizes that I've got an Osmo Pocket connected, and there you go, you've got a screen ready to go. So you can actually see everything that Osmo Pocket is seeing up top that 20 inches away. So if I wanted to film, say, that vista over there, and I wanted to get a nice panoramic shot of it, it's really easy for me to start the recording by hitting this button right here, and then just slowly panning along. Let me get the camera up a little bit, panning along and capturing that vista, just to get a really nice, maybe a B-roll shot for something you're shooting. Now the other way you can do it, and this is one of the things I love about this extension rod, is I've got a joystick here on the bottom. So I can actually hold this steady and use the joystick to do the pan if I want, slowly. And that gives me a really nice cinematic pan, nice and buttery smooth across there. Because when you're using your hand, you might get a little jerky there, and it shows up in the video. But using that thumb wheel to move it across, or the thumb joystick to move it across, it gives you a really nice buttery movement. Now another thing I like to do is I'll shoot low a lot of times in the grass, and I'll pull up the extra slack. And what I'll do is put it down where I'm going to film, and I'll adjust the gimbal up enough, just so it's facing up and straight. And then when you record like this, if you're trying to, add some drama to the scene, or maybe you're trying to show in your video that you've walked through the forest or the woods, walking through weeds like this, like start back here, and almost fell there, walk through weeds like this as you're recording, and get them close to the weeds, it actually looks incredibly cool because you're down there at sort of a bug's level, moving through these weeds, and you've got this stabilized footage of it happening. It's a good way to show motion, or if you're filming sport events, to get down near a soccer ball or soccer player's feet when you're filming is pretty cool. I also love the selfie aspect of it. So if I hit this button on the right-hand side, let me stop the recording, I can then put it in selfie mode, and what's going to happen is the head will spin around and face me. Now I've got face tracking on at present. So what this does now is give me a tremendously cool perspective behind me. So I'm capturing all this beautiful footage behind me as I'm talking to the camera. You got to remember to look at the camera when you're talking, because if you look down here, you're going to look goofy. So I'm looking at the camera, I'm talking to you. Here's my background behind me. Look at this beautiful field behind me here. Oh, what a gorgeous day. I'm out flying. So you can do whatever you do on your vlog, but it keeps that face tracking there, and it gets it far enough away from you where you get all that background behind you, which is really, really cool. So that's pretty much it. I like it a lot. It works well, and that extension of 20 extra inches doesn't seem like a lot until you actually use it, because when you extend your arm, that's a good 36, 40 inches away from you when you figure out the length of your arm, and it just gives you so much more of a perspective behind you. It's really cool. Now, one other thing I like to do when I'm vlogging is, because I've got this 1/4 inch thread on the bottom, you can use an extension and a tripod. So if you use one of these extension rods, you can screw it into the bottom, and then you can screw the tripod into the bottom of that. And here's what happens. Now I've got this sort of single tripod assembly that I can vlog with. So once I open up these feet in the bottom, make sure everything's nice and tight. Everything's tight, good to go. I can set this thing down and actually set up the camera. You know, adjust the camera so it's facing me. Again, I've got very soft ground here, but I've got the perfect vlogging scene. So I can stand back from it like this, and I can talk about what I'm doing. Here's the drone, here's what I'm gonna fly. Boy, look at there's a moose back there, look over there. So you can do vlogging, and I've got the monitor on the bottom. I've got a beautiful 4K resolution camera up top that's doing face tracking, it's following me. So everything about this just makes it so simple to set up in a place like this without having to worry about taking a big DSLR along and a monitor and a tripod and all that other nonsense with batteries and everything else. That little setup right there is all I need for most of the outdoor shooting I do. And what you get in the kit is basically the extension rod, but all the other stuff we've got listed on the site. Again, you can probably find it on Amazon, on eBay, all over the place, but if you want to support the channel, there'll be links below to find all this stuff. But for me, getting it that high in the air gives me almost an eyeball shot. I'm a little shorter, but an eyeball shot, and you can adjust it up if you're a little taller, where I can actually film back this far, catch great audio because the mics are really good internally. If I don't need the monitor, I can even use a mic adapter to be this far back from the camera and get beautiful perspective back there. So that's pretty much it. I like it. For me, I use it every time. So again, you have to decide for yourself if it's something that makes sense for your kit or not, but that's pretty much it for the extension rod for the Osmo Pocket. Now I'll give you some final thoughts on the Osmo Pocket extension rod to help you decide if it's right for you. For starters, I'm not a huge fan of the name. Extension rod sounds like something that belongs in the transmission on my car, not a product like this. I think the marketing guys could have worked a little bit harder, and if they called me, I would have said, call it like a super duper selfie stick or a wizard's wand or something that has some marketing appeal that really makes it sexy out there when you're marketing a product like this. But be that as it may, I mentioned at the beginning that it may not be right for everybody, and what I meant by that was it's a fairly expensive accessory. It's about $69, so you have to think hard about, are you going to use it enough to justify that price? Now, for somebody like me that's out using the Osmo Pocket every day, and I'm taking shots that are high and shots that are low, and I'm doing a lot of vlogging, it's the perfect accessory for me to bring along. But if you're somebody that only uses the Osmo Pocket occasionally, it's a lot to carry around. I mean, it does give you the extension to get above a crowd, and it doesn't seem like 19 inches is a lot, but when you extend your arm up and you have that 19 inches on top of it, I haven't had a situation yet where I couldn't get that beautiful shot from above, that sort of crane shot down with the Osmo Pocket. Now, I also love the fact that with normal selfie sticks, I pretty much have to frame it and then hope for the best. I have no control over where that camera is going to end up unless I've got my phone down here with that virtual joystick on it. This gives me the ability to change that framing and get those buttery smooth movements across pans and other things out there. So for me, it's a huge extension to what I used to be able to do with the Osmo Pocket before this product came along. But again, if you're somebody that's using the Osmo Pocket occasionally, you have to decide if that $69 is worth the purchase price to add this to your kit. For me, it's absolutely worth it. And if you use your Osmo Pocket a lot, it's probably something you're going to want to bring along. So I like it. I think the engineering behind it is really, really tight. They've done a great job of building a custom accessory for the Osmo Pocket that really enhances its functionality tremendously. And I know 69 bucks seems like a lot, but honestly, when you find a custom accessory like this for a product like this, that price is not that bad. I honestly think they could have charged $89 for it and most people would have bought it, but I'm glad they're at $69, so let's be happy about that. I've used it again for 2 weeks and pretty much find that every time I'm out shooting and I've got the Osmo Pocket in my hand, I immediately think, oh, wait a minute, I got to get that extension rod out because I want to be able to have control and extend it a little bit further away from me. So I think it's a perfect product for those situations where you're out there in the field an awful lot. So that's pretty much all I had for today. I appreciate you guys watching these clips. Now, if I've missed anything at all, please drop them in the comments below. I promise to get back to you as quickly as I can. I'll be doing a lot of testing with this. I have a bunch of other accessories coming. Like I'd mentioned, I have the waterproof case that I'll be testing tomorrow. Take that out outside and we'll get it wet and make sure that that works okay and explain everything about it to you. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please hit that subscribe button down there. We really appreciate all the people that watch this channel. I love getting questions from you guys about what does a product do? What are you going to test next? Can you take a look at this? And I really listen to what you ask for. So a lot of the clips we put on the channel come from viewer suggestions on things you guys want to see. I want to make this as interactive as possible for the people that are fans of the channel. So thanks an awful lot for watching. And until next time, stay nerdy.